Hello, how are you? My name is Vanessa Ortali. I am the founder of the Ladies Community and Heart and Mind Talks. And today I am bringing to you another interview for our online summit, The One. And the theme of this summit is one with purpose, one with self, and one with others. So we're going to keep chatting about how to connect with yourself and how to connect with others with community leader Alexis Dean. Alexis Dean is the founder and lead of Dovetail Community. So you can check them out online, see what they're about. It's a women's entrepreneur group of women who are on a mission to lead females through collaboration and generosity and education. So I love what you're doing. It connects so well with the ladies community and what we're doing here. So welcome, Alexis. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's chat a little bit about connection with self first. How did you start Dovetail Community and connect to that purpose within yourself?
So I started the Dovetail Community at a time when I was growing another business. It's another business that I still own. So I have a corporate team building and training company. And that was about 2.5 years ago. And I was a couple years into growing the other business and my team was growing and, I had big goals and we were doing a lot. And yet I looked around and I didn't know any other real woman entrepreneurs. I knew like very small business owners, but I didn't know women who had big teams or who had scaled globally or anything like that. And so I just built what I needed, which at the time I thought it was going to be like a one-off weekend to go away with some awesome entrepreneurs and have a glass of wine by the fire at the cottage. And basically within like the first 24 hours, I had 24 women that wanted to come. And then we had 50. And then I was like, whoa, like I wasn't planning on renting like anything bigger than this. So we kind of capped it. And that was the beginning about 2.5 years ago. And it's just snowballed since then.
Yeah, I love when things happen on accident. And so many people that I've been interviewing say the same thing. I wanted to serve a need that I needed and or someone they knew needed. And then it just snowballed from there.
Yes, exactly.
What were you hoping to get from that community that you were creating in the beginning? When you said you needed it, what did you need?
Yeah. So, I was hoping to get what now all of our women entrepreneurs who join Dovetail are hoping to get, which is, I think everybody, whether they actively recognize it or not, everyone who's in a leadership position as an entrepreneur genuinely feels a little lonely at times. We can't turn to our employees and tell them when things are going a little sideways, like their livelihoods depend on us. And we can't always turn to our old good friends who, like my old friends from school, are all very loving and supportive, but they don't really get it. And my family, I certainly can't always turn to them because they'll get stressed out.
They'll be like, what are you doing, Alexis? I told you not to do this.
Or just, it's stressful, like some of the situations as entrepreneurs we find ourselves in. And so, that need was just for, I wanted the support and the connection to other women who could understand, but I also wanted, again, what our ladies are looking for, which is really great hands-on strategic business advice. I think there are a lot of events and conferences that look really pretty out there. There's a lot of like kind of, stuff where you can go and sit at conference and watch people and listen to them and take a dozen pages of notes. And yet there's not as much hands-on. So I wanted to like have an experience where we go away together, whether we're online in our year-long membership or whether we're away together, but whatever we're doing, we always deep dive into it. So we have like a really, intentional, hands-on, really doing the work. And also we're not doing the work that we don't need right now. So we offer enough support for our ladies that we have enough variety that you're going to get what you actually need in your business and not what you may need 2 years from now. Which is also available for those that need that. And also not what you're like, okay, I've already done that. I don't need to sit through a whole session. So anyways, lots of those things.
What did you end up learning? And maybe you continue to learn from the community, but what are some of your biggest takeaways that you weren't necessarily expecting to learn?
I knew that I would have out of this, just even after the first weekend, I knew that I was going to make great friends from this. And that was an amazing thing to start with. And of course, like there's been so much business learning. I can't even I would be here all afternoon sharing all of the business lessons. But I think the biggest thing is just the capacity for support that people have. So recently, as we've been going through this COVID situation, a lot of us have been hit pretty hard in business. And, within our community, everyone has been super supportive of each other. But even for myself, I didn't realize how much this was going to impact me. but I was in a situation just a couple weeks ago with some of the things that we've been planning. We've had to move events and all that. And I had, one of the top negotiators in North America who became a friend of mine through Dovetail. She stepped in and just did it, did it for free. I had a lawyer, again, just like, hey, let me get on the phone with you. Let me help you. And again, like, let me just help you deal with the situation because you're a friend, because you're a community member. And then, PR people, like in our group, people are saying, oh, like we're getting pushback on da. And you get like 3, 4, 5 PR experts jumping in to be like, here's my professional advice. Let's hop on a phone call. So like the things are not necessarily like, yes, the business lessons are massive. And the way that we've shaped the business is totally because of everything that I've learned from all these amazing powerhouse women. But at the same time, I think the biggest learning is that we can do so much more together when we surround ourselves with really genuinely supportive and close community. I think that's one of the big things that we're getting at Dovetail. It's just this closeness of connection and support.
Yeah, I love that. For you, how do you envision the community growing and what role it has in the community?
In the community at large, you mean like our
Yes,
like Dovetail growing?
yeah,
And
exactly.
so when I started, I did a podcast interview after the first summit, and I was still like full-time in my other business, and like Dovetail was like a nice little weekend thing that I was like, oh no. And I was asked, I was on Jason Gaynard's podcast, and he said, well, where do you see this going? Like, I heard all these good things about your first event. And I was like, well, I think I'll keep it little. I think I'll just, maybe we'll do this once a year. And he laughed at me. And I was like, what? Like, he's like, no. And so because our ladies had looked for more, I knew, and they came to me, and like one of our ladies owns a vineyard, and she's like, come to the vineyard for the weekend. And another was in New York, and she's like, why don't we do a New York trip? And then all of a sudden it was like, we were doing a summer summit. So it's always been really listening to what our women want and how we can support more women entrepreneurs across the country. And of course we have Americans as well now. So it's never been about like my personal vision for where I think we want to go. It's always been listening to the community and listening to the needs of the entrepreneurs whom we support. And so right now, I mean, obviously, like because of the coronavirus, we've all taken our businesses online. We're doing so much supporting of our women in the online space and also helping them to get online. So not only are all of our workshops and our sessions and masterminds and everything else transferred online, but we're helping them to learn how to use the tools that they need to support their businesses. So I think this is a cool opportunity because our ladies who are in America, our ladies who are in South Asia, our ladies who are in Canada, they're actually all coming in. Like we're doing sessions almost every day at this point, and they're all together online. And they're saying, hey, I have friends who are looking for this help right now and their business is struggling. Can I bring them in? And so now we're creating a more open space where we can integrate more women into our online programming and more women from all over the world, because we have Europeans, we have Australians, we have South Asians, we have Americans, we have Canadians. So now that's what the vision is looking like, is expanding it to include more, but still keeping small groups intimate enough that people are actually getting the support in the business and life support that they need.
Yeah, that's so important. I love how everyone is coming together to truly help, because you've mentioned this a few times now of how the power of community is how you can truly come together and help. But you also mentioned that you've been really good at listening to what your community wants. And I think that's really a key success factor as well. So if other people are looking at building community, what other things should they consider in order to build a successful, cohesive unit of women, men, whatever it is?
Yeah. So when I started, I mean, I knew what my needs were, but I didn't necessarily know what other people needed. So literally when I started and I thought I was going to have like maybe a dozen women come up north to the cottage or whatever, like I just wasn't really thinking about that. But even those first dozen that I spoke to, and then when it was the first 24, and then when it was 50, and now we have 200 who come to camp, we ask everyone, like, what do you need? What does an ideal weekend look like for you in this scenario? If we bring together all these women, what do you want to do with them? And so it's really just been throughout this entire process, having those conversations, and, sometimes it's online surveying and sometimes it's in-person conversations, but it's always just asking the question in order to grow and support the community that they most need. Cause like I could sit at home in my little office and say, hey, we're going to like create this program and this program. And if it's not what they need, they're not going to buy into it and they're not going to support it. So it's always based on what do they need? And then what can we build for them that's going to satisfy those needs? And a little bit of magic where we realize that people don't always know exactly what
Yeah.
they need. So it's
Yeah.
like listening, and then also saying, okay, like there's an unspoken need that I think we can satisfy that need through something else that we can do here. So it's like first listening, and then also having a bit of creativity and imagination around how you can satisfy that, and also listening for the things they're not saying. Like they might not say like, I'm terribly lonely and I need support and I need someone to check in on me every day. But if you're hearing that in the conversation, then you can create an opportunity for people to have daily touch points and daily check-ins and the support they need. So
That's great.
always
Yeah.
again, based on the community's needs.
It's true. And just like you said, asking them, like, what are your pain points? What are your challenges? Really getting into the minds of your community, customers, whatever you want to call them, so that you know what they're going through. And that's kind of where what you said, there might be an unspoken need. Because if you're asking them what are their challenges, then you might be able to see, oh, this solution may solve your problem and you don't even know it yet.
Yeah, exactly. And like, they might not always be able to tell you, you know, and then it's asking further questions that just get a sense of like, what does your day-to-day look like right now? And yeah, figuring all of that out, whether it's like community or whether you have business clients. Like, I think it's still all about determining what they actually need, because no problem, no sale, right?
Yeah. What do you think are the most common challenges that female entrepreneurs face?
Oof. I mean, I think they've changed a lot recently because of the coronavirus and the economic situation that we're all finding ourselves in. I think right now, the way that we've been addressing it with the Dovetail community is that we started with mental and emotional health. I think that unless you have yourself in a mentally and emotionally stable position, you cannot even consider your financial status. You can't consider, you know, being more innovative in your business or recognizing how you might pivot or even looking at the finances of your own business. Like, until you have that centered place, you're not going to be effective in other things. So even though people are like, yeah, that's a nice to have, I'm not going to sit and waste my time meditating, Alexis, I need to focus. It's like, you're going to focus if you can sit and meditate. So we're really starting with that. Not to say everyone has to sit and meditate, but I mean, you'll be able to focus and do everything better if you can start from this really solid emotional well-being place.
Yeah.
So we're starting with that. We did a session with our ladies with our in-house therapist this week. And we've had a couple of our ladies are running like mindfulness spaces so people can jump in and do meditations when they need to. We have one of our ladies is running dance parties every day. So anybody that wants to jump in, can jump in. And then we also this week, we have a session on innovation in this space. So now that you're in a well-being place, then you can start to think like, okay, what are some of the options? Because I think if we just dive right into the finances, it's really scary and people might just go into like total panic mode. But if we go at like, okay, we have options here. So we're in a good well-being place. We have options. We consider those. Then we're going to go into looking at our finances. Where do we stand right now? Let's take our heads out of the sand. Let's not be ostriches. And then we can go into, now that we know our finances, what are our options with all of that? What are some of the loans we might have access to? What are some of the grants we might have access to? What can we do with sponsors? And then it's like, how do you actually take action with all of those loans? So really just step by step. And I think that's really important for everyone right now, is that a lot of people need to just like take a deep breath and recognize like, we're going to do the next right thing, and then the next right thing, and the next right thing. And I think that's a lot of our women are really benefiting from this approach of like, we've got you. You're here with us. We're going to walk through this together.
Yeah, I think that's just a major lesson in life, period. And that's why even within this summit, I wanted to focus on one with self, one with purpose, and one with others as the last component. Because if you're not feeling at ease and in alignment of yourself, you won't know what to do with the information that you're given anyways.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like, I've been there.
Yeah.
I am there. I know it can be really hard to be like, I'm going to sit down and meditate and everything's going to be better. It might not be better right away, but you're going to feel better.
So then how do you find emotional, spiritual balance?
So I will admit, I have not been meditating every day this week, and I can feel it. But meditation and prayer for me are pretty much essential, and exercise and outdoor exercise. So like, thank goodness we currently are allowed to be outdoors. And so I've been running all week. I've been going for walks. I did a social distance walk with a good friend this morning. So we stayed like 6 feet apart.
I was going to say, what is a social distance walk? That's funny.
Well, she and I are both trying to quarantine to protect our parents because I want to be able to see my parents during this time. So I'm like very aware of keeping space and being very careful. But she lives around the corner. So we went to our local woods and we took like a social distance walk, and just getting outside and getting active has always been important, at this time, but always. So that and meditating every day are just so valuable.
Yeah, it sounds like you're adapting. I mean, with the social distancing walk, that's creative. That's good.
I don't recommend it for everyone because I know there'll be
Yeah.
pushback on it, but if you can be really smart about it, there's no reason why you shouldn't. And definitely get outside. Like, people
Mhm.
are like, you have to stay inside right now. I'm like, there is no law on staying inside. I don't recommend getting into elevators if you can avoid it. But like, if you can go outside and breathe fresh air and still maintain safe distance from people, like, this is, it's so good for your mindset.
Yeah.
It's so good. And your physical health. Like, we need to stay healthy.
Yeah, it's easier to get outside when you don't live in the city too, because there aren't as
It's
many
true.
people around. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. But even go down by the lake if you live in the city, like walk yourself
Mm.
down. You can stay away from
Yeah,
people. Yeah.
it's true. So through everything in your corporate, training company as well as Dovetail, what are some topics and issues that you're really passionate about that you feel that people don't talk about enough?
Hmm. Gosh, I know people that talk about everything.
That's
I
good. Then
think
you're
that's a
surrounded with the right
challenge.
people. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's the challenge when we live in this kind of like entrepreneurial bubble. Sometimes, like, the people that I'm surrounded with are fairly progressive and they're open-minded, and my closest friends are, most of them, entrepreneurs, or they're like progressively minded non-entrepreneurs. And so people talk about so much in the world that I'm in. Um, I think something that's just overall a topic that society needs to get better at speaking about is mothering, infertility, and the post-birth process in that situation. I don't have children yet, but I have friends who've been through it. And they were so excited when this year there started to be companies and innovations around immediately after birth, what is going on with women's bodies and the things that they need and the services and the products and all of that. So I feel like there's a cool space in society opening up to talk more openly about women's health, which I know is not directly related to entrepreneurship, but I
That's
think
okay.
innovation around that is like
Yeah.
so ripe. So if you're a woman entrepreneur or just an entrepreneur in general, like, if I didn't have this business, I would probably be thinking about like, how can I serve women after birth, especially because there's going to be a coronavirus baby boom. So if
Yes.
you're thinking of
Yes.
a business idea,
9 months from
about
now.
pivoting, that's the perfect time to have an
Yeah.
affordable mother care or early stage baby care product or business. Just that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And listening to this, I hope you can also see how Alexis came to that conclusion, right? It's looking for those opportunities, looking for the need and what people are currently challenged by. And if you don't know, just ask, like she was saying, and we've talked about so many times, like go out there, really understand your client, their journey and what their life is like, because we only know what our life is like. So the
Yeah,
more curious we can be and ask questions, the better. What is
totally.
your life like right now, and what are some of your current challenges?
Whew, I mean, it's really hard to avoid this whole virus situation when I
Mm,
answer these questions. And I know that this will be around for a while longer. And hopefully when people are listening to this, this will be, long gone. But for right now, the reality is, like, my training business is in-person training. So we're converting that to online to support our corporate clients, because people still need ongoing education, and that also connects people from wherever they are at home. And then in the Dovetail community, obviously, like, we run in-person events. Our biggest event of the year is our summer camp in September, and like, God willing, that's going to go through. And if it doesn't, we're going to be running incredible online programming. And also, we're taking everything that we run offline, like our ongoing dinners and the getaways and the pop-ups and our summits and our camp. We're taking all of that now and building it into our online membership. So that's definitely top of mind right now, is like, how can we
mhm.
create that same incredible, powerful, deep connection experience in an online
Yeah,
platform, and not
yeah,
just be like all these other Zoom calls that everybody is having together. Cause like the Brady Bunch is great, but like, how do you
mhm,
really connect in the, if you use Zoom, you know what I'm talking about, where you
yeah.
have like the, 9 little squares of people. How do you really feel like you're connecting and really deeply learning from one another in that environment? So
Yeah, I also wanna
top of mind.
highlight what you just said, because it sounds like, obviously, experiences and connection is
Mm-hmm.
such a core value to what you do.
Yes.
So, if you're listening, I want to encourage you to think about what are your core values, and regardless of the landscape right now, how can you adapt while staying consistent to those values, giving people
Mhm.
experience, creating connection, regardless of what you're doing and whatever industry that you're in?
Yes, it's so important. And I've been talking to my friends who are in the corporate world and who are in leadership or even just working, and they're talking about like, gosh, we're having all these Zoom meetings and they're so painful and I don't feel like we're really getting anywhere. And like, Alexis, how do we make this more interactive, or how do we, do breakout groups and all of that? And the technology is there and it is so doable. So whatever industry you're in, entrepreneur or not, there are ways to really build those connections. And I do think that whether or not you're an entrepreneur, knowing your personal core values and your company core values is essential, especially if you're an entrepreneur. Those are like the guidelines for how I've made every decision in this situation and how I continue to make decisions. And then in the past as well, knowing those values.
Yeah. As a businesswoman, what lessons took you the longest to learn and you wish you learned them faster?
Gosh, there's so much learning all the time. Running businesses is,
We never know anything.
every day.
Yeah.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, that's it. Like, you just have no idea how much you really don't know until you're in the situation. Then it's like, oh, like I didn't even know I didn't know that. I think maybe it didn't take me the longest to learn, but just now that I've been in business, like my other company I've had for almost 7 years or 6.5 years or so now. And seeing it all as a long game. I think especially in this situation, knowing that we didn't start yesterday and we're not ending tomorrow, and that this is, for those of my friends, especially our summit ladies who've been in business for a long time and they, survived through every other recession and major life events, and grandparents who lived through the depression and all of that, like this is a blip in time. And this is not something that is going to define the rest of our lives and the rest of our businesses. So seeing the long game in the world is just so valuable. And that's been like a daily reminder for myself. Like, don't make decisions short-sightedly, but think about who you want to be, whether you're a business owner or not. Think about, who do you really want to be in the long run? And if you're a business owner, then and what do you want your brand to be? What do you want your business to be in the long run too? Because whatever you do now in this situation where people are in crisis is going to stay with you. And so at Dovetail, that means, I'm forming a coalition with all these other founders of communities of women entrepreneurs from across Canada. We're offering free resources to women entrepreneurs, whether they're part of our communities or not. We're doing a lot just to support the community, because we know, that's the right thing to do. It's the next right thing. And for all of us, like, this is how we want to show up in the world. This is who we want to be. This is how we want to give to people, much like you're doing this series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips as to how women can decide how they want to show up in the world if they need more clarity around what they want to look like and be? How can they do that?
I think it's really hard to like turn off all that outside noise right now, but I think that's one of the most important practices. And I know everyone says that, like meditation, mindfulness, all of this, journaling, but that is the kind of thing that helps. I mean, it helped me recognize like what my values were when I started my businesses and what our core values as an organization were. And so it's taking the time to say, like, who was I today? Who was I this week? How did I show up with people? And who do I want to be and how do I want to show up in the world? So we can start with literally just looking at like the past week. Okay, so in my relationship with my partner, how was I showing up with my partner? Was I open to communication? Was I feisty with them? Was I, trying to control things? How did I show up with my family? How did I show up with my team at work or my employees if I have employees? And how do I really want to be showing up? How do I want to feel? How did I make them feel? And then again, looking forward is, how do I really want to feel every day? And how am I going to get there? And it's really just like it can be a journaling. It can be like going for a walk and thinking about this. I always find it really beneficial to like get out a journal and like write it. I have a couple journals on my desk. I was going to show you one, but write it down and have it there as like a constant reminder. And then to do a check-in at the end of the day. Like, did I show up today as the person that I want to be? Because I think it's easier to get out of habits that way. And I think it's also just a more conscious way of living. And I am by no means perfect at this. I have bad days. I stick my foot down my throat, like I have disagreements with people I love and care about. But I think it's just, again, like a practice of regaining consciousness over that and showing up in the world as the person you really admire and want to be proud of.
Yeah, I think that practice and consistency is important. And just because you always have to reevaluate daily, weekly, monthly for yourself and your business.
Yeah.
You also mentioned a couple times the next best step. And I also am subscribed to this. You don't know, you just keep making the next best decision. I know a lot of women struggle with clarity. How do you know personally what your next best step is?
I think I don't know that anybody knows the perfect next best step. I spent a long time in my life, working for other organizations until I started my first business. I worked all over the world, always with different organizations. I worked with schools. I used to be a school teacher. And then I worked as a facilitator and a trainer. And I was always like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I know that this is not forever, whatever I was doing at the time. I was like, this is awesome. And I'm traveling and blah, blah, blah. It's great. But there's always this kind of niggling feeling of like, but I still don't really know what I really want. Like, I don't know what my future looks like. When people be like, well, what do you see your future? I'd be like, I don't know. And I think what shifted for me was I still don't totally know what that perfect picture is. But I think once I started to play with it a little bit, once I started to just take an action that I thought, okay, this looks like it could be the next right action. And if I take that action, if I take that step, it's going to lead me in this avenue. Okay, so I'm going to pursue that for a little while and see how it goes. So with my first business, I literally was like, I'm going to do this for a year and see how it goes. And if I'm taking the next right step over and over again, we're going to be okay. And a year in, I was like, sweet, like we're doing really well. So maybe this is the thing that I'm meant to be doing now. But it's like committing to something and giving it a fair go and giving it a fair chance. And within that thing that you've committed to for the time being, it's like, I don't need to know every answer for the next 10 years of this thing. I need to know right now what I think the next best thing is to do. And I got there by asking a lot of really smart people that had way more experience than I did too. So I didn't have to figure out the next right step all by myself every single time.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there, and that's so great because it's perfect. If people are looking for those people and need to find the people that know more than them, how do you recommend going about that?
So part of why I created Dovetail and part of why we have like the online membership and the workshops and everything we do with our ladies is because I was lucky enough to find a program like that when I started my first business. And that program doesn't exist anymore, but it was basically like similar to what we created. It was co-ed, so it was a bit different. But it was an environment where we had people in the group who were much more experienced than I was. We had incredible peer support with people who were in the same type of space I was, but were in different industries. So they could kind of say like, well, hey, in construction, we're dealing with that with our staffing in a similar way. And here's what we tried. And so having the peership, having the mentorship, and just having like the support of people and the resources. So when I needed to like learn how to create a better business budget, because I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew we needed a budget, I had people to say like, hey, here's how we did our budget, and a mentor to say like, you're going to want to avoid doing your budget like this. So I would say like not to, pitch Dovetail too hard, but like that's a place where you can find that kind of support. People always ask me, like, I've been super lucky to just have great mentors as well. And a mentor is different from a community or a mastermind or a supportive group like that. But those mentors have kind of come naturally. Like I didn't go too crazy because I've had people approach me for mentorship and like, not that, I know all the things or anything, but when people approach me and they're kind of like a little crazy about it, like, it can be a lot. And if you don't have the time or the capacity for it, it almost feels like you feel badly not saying yes. So when I found mentors, I would have or people that I thought might become like a mentor, I'd have like a really open conversation, but also just like, here's what I'm working on and that kind of thing. And I've just been lucky enough to have people say like, do you want to talk about this more? And then that became, do you want to talk about this every week? And then that became, how do you feel about me checking in on where things are in the business? Like, are you open to opening up the books to me and like, we'll share stuff. And so that was always really gradual and never like a forced situation.
Yeah, I love how you share that. I mean, moral of the story is you aren't going to know everything. So find the right people, find the right communities to help you make the journey a little bit easier that you can kind of do life with personally, professionally, all of those resources. Yeah. Is there any
on it? I wanted to say like,
yes. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And this too, when I started my business, like spending $100 a month on that program that I described there, or not program, but the community that I was part of, I was like, oh my gosh, like $100 a month, like that's so crazy. And I was like, I remember like literally being like, oh my gosh, I can't even tell my family or friends about this. They're going to think I'm nuts, like $100 a month. But like that investment also, it was, totally worth it. But it also ensured that like I was bought in. I was showing up when we had calls. I was showing up in the community, in our Facebook group, in our forum group. Like I was actually buying in with my energy by spending money on it. And I've since then had business coaches and been part of a community right now that the tuition is more than I want to share publicly. But I think that investment also keeps me fully bought into supporting that community and to listening to it and being engaged. So I think that you know, as a business owner, wherever you are in business, making that investment in yourself is always worth it.
Yeah, you get what you put in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what you're saying. It's so funny that you say $100 a month, because we know in the self-development industry, that is really affordable.
Yeah.
I don't even know
Yeah.
that that exists anymore.
I
It
know.
can
This was
be
like
really
6 years ago.
expensive. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you're listening and you haven't invested in yourself yet, do a little research, find what's
Mm-hmm.
right for you, but don't be afraid to spend, because we've both spent thousands of dollars on ourselves and continue to do so, but it makes you better. And like you said, it makes you accountable. You have skin in the game. You
Mm-hmm.
want to get something out of it if you're putting money into it. So don't be afraid, even though obviously your first time, it's unnerving,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you're not really sure what you're going to get out of it, but
Totally.
there's a right community, right coach, right mentor for everybody.
It
So
really
go out there and figure out what's right for you based on your needs right now. Do you have a last message to leave people with today?
is. I think, you know, there are a lot of people, especially right now, and I know this will be released again in the future, but there are a lot of people who are feeling very alone in all of this, and especially our business owners. I think, you know, entrepreneurship, as I said, can be lonely at the best of times. And I think right now people are afraid to share the situation they're really in or the situation that they're forecasting now. And I think the most important thing is to find those people or that person that you can really open up with and share what's going on. And don't be an ostrich about it, because it's not going to help you in the long run. And it's actually going to make you feel better if you just deal with the situation now. So find a person you can confide in, find a community you can confide in, and find people that can help you, whether that's through Dovetail or elsewhere. There are places where you can go for help, and they're not all going to cost you an arm and a leg. And at the very least, just find that one trusted person, because you're not alone.
So good. And when you speak and share, you realize you're not alone. That's the whole
Yes.
Me Too came out, right? People were
Mm-hmm.
saying, this happened to me. And then other people had that opportunity to say, oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah, I think that's a perfect way to end this chat with Alexis. And where can people find Dovetail Community if they want to find out more and get some of these resources that you've been talking about?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram. Next week, we're actually launching a whole series of open workshops with some of our powerhouse, you know, top Canadian woman entrepreneurs, talking about everything from finance to HR and innovation and pivoting and everything we really need right now. So you can follow all along with all of these opportunities at Dovetail Community. It's Dovetail as in like the tail of a dove, Doveail, community, all one word. On Instagram, or dovetail.community. It's not a .com, it's a .community online. Is their website.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Alexis, and
Thank
sharing
you.
your insights on community and self. And just know, in leaving this interview and this chat, thank you for listening. And I want you to know you are not alone. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to know everything. You can hear in this chat, we don't know everything. We still don't know
Gosh, no.
everything. It's just finding the right people. So have
Mm-hmm.
faith that you don't have to do it alone. And we're sending
Yeah.
you so much love. Thank you for your courage and taking the time to listen to this interview. We will chat with you soon, and we'll see you later. Bye.